This is hard.
This was not a good idea. I think I'm physically sick.
I want to fall over and just say I'm done, but I don't want to lay in this canyon and fucking die either.
Welcome to Go the Distance, where Josh, Andy, and Jeff, that's me, attempt a 4,270-mile motorcycle quest, riding from Marshfield, Wisconsin, 1,400 miles to Roswell, New Mexico on day 1, then ride 600 miles to the south rim of the Grand Canyon on day 2. This will be followed by a 16-mile hike from the south rim of the Grand Canyon down the Bright Angel Trail to the Colorado River, and then back up, all on day 3. Then it's a 1,170-mile ride around the north rim of the Grand Canyon and up to Billings, Montana on day 4, and finishing on day 5 with a 1,100-mile ride back to Marshfield, Wisconsin. That gives us a grand total of 4,270 miles covering 13 states, all in just 5 days. To aid us along the way, we recruited 3 guys to follow us in an SUV pulling a trailer in case one of us broke down. We have Nick, our cameraman.
How about you? Are you having fun?
John, one of the drivers.
Are you having fun? Yeah.
And Neil, our other driver.
12 again.
Because we had an insane number of miles to cover on day 1, our plan was to be ready to go by 3 a.m., drive to a gas station, fill up, collect our gas receipts, and record our mileage for Iron Butt Association documentation and verification, aiming to be on the road by 4 a.m. You see, everything we were about to attempt was based on covering a set number of miles in a given amount of time in order to complete everything in 5 days. Every delay, regardless of the cause, would take time away from the 3 of us eating, sleeping, or just simply decompressing. Time was our most important commodity on this trip. Ready to leave the warmth and dryness of the garage, Andy starts his bike, I start my bike, and then Josh tries to start his bike. Collectively, our hearts sank. We haven't even traveled a single foot and we were already experiencing problems. Was this a sign of things to come? Thankfully, John came to our rescue with a battery pack and finally got Josh's bike started. Now it's off to the gas station. As we pulled into the gas station, we were met by our families to wish us luck and see us off. Things were coming together and the 3 guys in the chase vehicle were settling in when it was finally time to fill our tanks and start the official 24-hour clock. We were saying our final goodbyes and ready to head out when one of Marshfield's finest rolled up and wanted to know what was going on. He pulled up to the pump next to Andy, so Andy explained what was going on and why all these people had gathered at the gas station at 5 a.m. Satisfied with the explanation and a bit envious of our endeavor, the police officer left and we were set to depart. Now, I should mention that the chase vehicle, Andy, and I were all equipped with 2-way radios. We were able to talk back and forth and have that audio recorded. Because Josh chose to wear a shell helmet, we were unable to get a setup in place that would allow him to hear well enough to talk to everyone. Unless his GoPro picked up the audio, Josh was going to be silent. Out of town and into the mist and thick fog we rode. The fog was a huge problem as it became almost impossible to read road signs, and as a result, we missed a turn or 2 and had to double back. Not the end of the world, but every minute spent correcting an error was making our goal of 1,400 miles less and less likely.
Hey guys, we gotta go to 173. This is a gravel road and I don't want to do that.
Because we missed a turn and had to double back, we ended up losing the chase vehicle. They had a harder time finding somewhere to turn around that would accommodate the truck and trailer. Instead of leaving them too far behind, we decided to pull over and wait a minute or 2 for them.
Man, I can't see. Wow, it's raining inside my helmet, dripping into my eyes.
The chase vehicle eventually got turned around and headed down the right road. These small delays were already beginning to mess with my head and my confidence of actually making Roswell today. As the sun came up, we all hoped that the fog would start to dissipate. That just didn't happen. We were wet and cold by the time we made our first fuel stop in Minnesota. The idea of a warm and leisurely ride was quickly fading, and so was our morale. The forecast the day before had called for clear skies. I guess the forecast was just a little off. Hour after hour after hour, we rode in that fog. It varied from an annoying mist to being so thick you couldn't see more than a quarter mile down the road. Despite the fog, and the sheer boredom that goes along with riding in it, we continued on pushing as hard as we felt was safe to do. It continued like that all the way through Wisconsin and all the way through Minnesota. The fog finally began to lift as we approached the Iowa border. Maybe today wouldn't be so bad after all.
Oh my God, it's blue sky! It's a blue sky up there! Sandy. Yeah. How's your arms and wrists doing? I actually honestly don't feel, I feel great. I thought I'd be ready to get off this thing by now. What's funny is all these people that pass Josh see the pink helmet from behind and think he's a woman and then get up next to him and do a double take when they find out he's got a beard.
Although we were thankful that the sun was out, we were now having to deal with strong 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. Not only were the winds incredibly fatiguing, but they absolutely destroyed our fuel economy and we found ourselves stopping for fuel more than anticipated. Again, not a big deal normally, but each fuel stop averaged 20 minutes. And that is time we just can't get back. Now, I know what you're saying. Why is it taking 20 minutes per fuel stop? Well, with 6 people to hustle along, it becomes a lot like herding cats. People had to pee and 2 had to smoke. At the risk of losing the chase vehicle, we can only go as fast as the slowest person. Now that the sun was up, we decided to stop at a rest area to shed some layers and eat lunch before continuing on through Kansas City and eventually onto the Kansas Turnpike. It was still quite windy, but it felt good against the heat and humidity.
It'll rain for sure now because I opened all the vents.
With a decent meal in our bellies, we were primed to take on infamous Kansas City traffic and continue our journey south. There was one thing that concerned us though. While we were eating, Nick showed us the weather radar image for Kansas and Oklahoma. There were some rather severe storms brewing, and depending on which way they ultimately traveled, could make for some very tough riding conditions. Nevertheless, we had miles to cover and were willing to take whatever Mother Nature threw at us. Continuing through Kansas, we had to get on the Kansas Turnpike at Emporia. I'd forgotten what a pain in the backside it is traveling on a motorcycle without an Easy Pass tag. Traveling through a toll booth with a group of people in separate vehicles sucks, and it forced us to regroup and wait for the last person to get through. Essentially, more time wasted.
The radar on your phone and see what kind of mess we're headed into.
We knew our luck with the weather was running out, and we were already starting to get sprinkled on. Even with Nick's frequent weather radar and storm severity updates, we had no idea just how bad things were about to get. Once the heavens opened the faucet, it poured down rain for hours on end. The rain forced us to slow well below the speed limit, not only to prevent hydroplaning Andy's sport bike, but also to accommodate Josh's lack of a fairing or a face shield. I mean, really, imagine being pelted in the face by 60 to 70 mile per hour rain pellets. I mean, that's gotta sting a little. So anyway, there I was, worrying about Andy's tires, Josh's face, and doing the mental gymnastics trying to figure out if Roswell was even a remote possibility anymore. We rode through one thunderstorm after another in heavy rain before I figured it may be a good idea to stop underneath an overpass and just check on Josh. He pulled up, gave us a thumbs up, and said he was fine.
I'm just worried about you. Right? Okay, but I mean, you're okay? Alright.
Enjoying a minute or two of not being rained on, it was time to continue the journey. Before too long, it was time to stop for fuel again. With everything we've been riding through, this stop was a welcomed one. It was roughly 9:15 p.m., and we'd been riding in the rain for a solid 5 hours. Each of us had rain gear on, but it can only do so much. We were still soaking wet and chilled to the bone, with Josh being in the worst shape. It was time for a much-needed short break.
Yeah, feel when you can't feel your fingers or pull a bunch of them.
I don't know how you're staying warm.
I'm not. I am past that. Oh,
Throat's not-
I am. Oh, I was hurt before. Now I'm hurt.
Oh gosh.
This would be our last stop before hitting Oklahoma City and making our turn westbound onto Interstate 40 towards Texas and a new round of developing thunderstorms. It was beginning to get harder and harder to leave dry conditions behind, knowing damn well that we were once again going to be headed into a developing line of storms in Texas. The only bright side was that the rain had currently stopped and the radar looked dry, at least until we got close to Amarillo, and that was a few hours of dry riding away. We'll take it. With the weather clear for the moment, we were hoping to maintain a good pace to keep Roswell within reach. However, heading into Oklahoma City, we noticed Josh beginning to trail off behind us. Perhaps it was fatigue setting in, or maybe he was having an issue with his bike. The point is, we didn't really know since we had no way to talk to him. Unfortunately, Josh trailed so far behind at one point that he lost sight of us and mistakenly took the wrong exit to get onto Interstate 40 towards Texas. We found out when the chase vehicle radioed us and said they were following Josh and would try to get him turned around. Not wanting to get out of radio range with the chase vehicle, Andy and I pulled over to give them a chance to catch up. They eventually got turned around and headed back towards us, and yep, you guessed it, another delay that we just could not afford. In an attempt to keep an eye on Josh, Andy took the lead and I brought up the rear, with Josh in the middle. We still had 470 miles to go until Roswell, and now I wasn't too sure if Josh would even make it that far. Once we put Oklahoma behind us and entered Texas, the skies began to get less than friendly again. The storms were building in front of us and reforming behind us. We all agreed that an early fuel stop / radar check may be in our best interest. We pulled into a truck stop about an hour before Amarillo. Not only would this serve as a fuel stop, but we needed to be sure everyone was still able to continue on safely. While we fueled up, various motorists approached us and warned us not to continue westbound until the weather moved out. It turns out that there was golf ball-sized hail being reported 30 miles west of us. Not something we were prepared to experience on a motorcycle or anything else for that matter. As we stood around waiting for an opening in the weather, we all started to get our second wind. Surprisingly, everyone's mood was pretty good.
Get up, Florida. I got to Oklahoma.
Hey. Well, I think the storms are like.
I just refreshed it.
I think the store is like from here to the highway away. I know that by the time I walk back to the vehicle, it'll start dripping. I don't want to be dripped on. I'm sick of being dripped on. Sick of being blown over. Sick of being cold.
We eventually got the weather break we needed. We were all set to go when a familiar issue with Josh's bike reared its ugly head again. He tried to start his bike and nothing. This time not even a clicking noise. We quickly summoned John with the battery pack and he rescued us once again. It was now off to Amarillo. With our last fuel stop costing us an hour, and still having 3 hours and 38 minutes to go until reaching Roswell, the math was no longer adding up. No matter how I tried to manipulate the numbers, we could no longer meet our goal of 1,400 miles in 24 hours. With the wind picking up again, and the hypnotic rhythm of the white dividing stripes messing with our eyes, we decided it would be best to find a hotel in the next sizable town and get a few hours of sleep. We pulled into Hereford, Texas, 200 miles from Roswell, and began searching for a hotel. Even though we were disappointed about not reaching our goal, we all felt relieved when we pulled into that hotel for what was left of the night. Tomorrow would be a brand new day. Just want to go to bed now.
That says it all right there. What was it, Oklahoma? 7 tornadoes touchdown?
Yeah, we kind of skirted around
Oklahoma
that.
was not fun today.
We're actually going to drive to Roswell tomorrow and then head up to the Grand Canyon as we wanted to anyway. But this may work out better anyway. That way we can see all this Roswell stuff in daylight instead of in the pitch black at night.
Yeah, exactly.
We were frozen to the bone.
Yeah.
Pretty much
And
Soaked.
And so, yeah.
And yeah, we got very beat up today.
We've done this first day. You guys have done
1,240 some miles.
40 some miles today. Would you do it again?
Yeah.
Not on my bike. Yeah, we could have met our goal fairly easy.
It wasn't for lack of planning, but sometimes you just can't do it. We could go all the way, but in the interest of safety and falling asleep on the bikes, we decided to call it quits for the day.
Yeah.
You know, we can make excuses all day long, but we couldn't do it. We just couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
But we're going to make up for it tomorrow. Instead of a 600-mile run now, we're going to be doing about an 800.
Yeah. Boy,
Well, hopefully we can do better on the rest of the ride. This is just day one.
Yeah. Well.
yeah. So we're gonna go get a couple hours sleep and start over in a couple hours.
Try it all over again.
Yeah.
So.
Dude, this is gonna suck. I just want to suck it up and make it look a bit more peace here. It can't suck any more than yesterday. It can only suck a little less.
Greater than or equal to is going to be bad enough.
I'm not worried about the greater than because it's not possible.
The hike. Unless we ride through a tornado, which we pretty much did.
Yeah, that ain't even gonna come close to yesterday.
Yeah, they said.
With the sun shining and everyone in a surprisingly good mood, it was time to set the bikes up with all of the camera gear and repack the chase vehicle. The preparation this morning just to get ready to leave was something we really didn't consider. We originally wanted to be on the road by 8 a.m., but that clearly wasn't going to happen. And to be quite honest, we gladly traded an on-time departure for a few extra minutes of sleep. It was time to head to yet another gas station and begin the process of getting everyone ready to hit the road. You know the process, the one that takes 20 minutes. Well, this time, however, it wasn't smoking or P-brakes holding us up. We needed to fine-tune some wiring for our helmet cameras and microphones. I'll be the first to admit that I was still exhausted from the previous day's ride, and I was not ashamed to take advantage of any downtime to lean back, relax, and rest my eyes. It was 9:20 a.m. when we left Hereford, Texas, and began what should be an easy 800-mile ride to the Grand Canyon.
Alright, what do you say we go to New Mexico?
Yeah, let's get there and have a little bit of relaxed time as much as possible anyhow.
Yeah, we're already an hour behind.
Gotta bring in the negatives right away. Can't you just stay positive?
Okay, the positive is we gain an hour.
Okay, that works.
Well, so yesterday we deal with dense fog and high winds and thunderstorms, torrential downpours. Today it looks like it's going to be sunny and all we have to deal with is the heat. Life is good. Not much to see though.
Look at all the cows to the left.
What a miserable existence that would be.
I can't tell if that's a farm that stinks or if I'm catching a whiff of Josh's beard here.
My money's on the beard.
So the battle's over, the war is done. Who has won the day? She screamed, it's over, you come on down. What is left to say? There's no fight left inside. You got nothing left, and there's no way for you to keep your pride.
It looks like we're in New Mexico.
She made you cry. How many times did you close your eyes? You can't live when you're broken inside. Just one.
You notice all the looks that we've been getting since we've been in that last town we were at? I mean, just the people that stop and look or drive by and it's crazy, like they've never seen this before. Maybe they've never seen a motorcycle before. Or an alien-looking guy with a camera on top of his head. Maybe they're just looking at Josh. I guess if I seen a guy riding a Harley with a big helmet, I'd probably be staring too, like, what the hell? I'm wondering if we got the bearded lady riding with us.
Look at the dust tornado over there. To your right.
Riding in the vast nothingness of eastern New Mexico, dust devils were a common sight. This one, however, was quite large and was headed straight for the highway we were about to turn onto. The intensity of it decreased before it found its way into our path, but that didn't stop it from trying to blow us off the road and depositing a handful of sand and dirt into every exposed crevice on our bodies. A fuel stop in Roswell was extremely important. You see, it was 100 miles to the next sizable town, and we definitely didn't want a chance running out of gas out in the middle of nowhere. Somewhere along the way, we apparently had become Dust Devil magnets. We had finished fueling when another Dust Devil made its way right for us at the gas station, resulting in another handful of sand being deposited into our helmets.
We go to the Grand Canyon. Yeah, I'm ready to leave this place behind. Not a whole lot to say. Why the hell would an alien want to come here? Because they're weird, just like the people that live here. Maybe they want to see little green men walking around.
You know, the universe has a strange way of reminding us not to get too comfortable. Just when you think things are going your way, bam! It throws you a curveball to test your tenacity. Our curveball had just been thrown, and it was headed fast and low, right for our nutsack.
Hey, Jeff, we gotta pull over. I think I blew a belt.
Dude, there's just nothing out here. I mean, where the hell are we gonna get a belt?
Alright, yeah, I'm way overheating. I'm at 260. Okay.
Do you think we should turn around and go back by him? John blew a belt or something. They blew a belt.
What happened?
They said he blew a belt.
Blew a belt?
It was way overheating.
Really?
So, I mean, we're right in the middle of,
Nowhere.
Really, I mean, it's hour and a half that way, hour and a half that way.
Yeah.
The only thing we could do is go back, get our chargers, all the batteries and SD cards, and go to the canyon.
Shit.
And they're just gonna have to meet us.
That means I'll have to grab my bag of shit.
Well, right, yeah, I mean, we'll have to put that back on there. I'll have to put this bag back on here. Ugh. We'll have to go back. I mean, we need to find out what they're doing. If it's a belt or what it is. Alright, let's go.
Back towards Roswell we rode as we looked for the broken down chase vehicle.
This is gonna cost us a shitload of time.
Andy said it all right there. Our original plan was to be at the Grand Canyon's south rim by no later than 8 p.m. This would allow us to eat a real meal and get sufficient rest before the arduous hike in the morning. He reached the chase vehicle first, while Josh and I pulled up on the opposite side of the highway a few minutes later.
I'm not sure how we're gonna fix this out in the middle of nowhere.
As I walked across the highway towards the chase vehicle, I could see the three guys working feverishly under the hood. It looked serious, way more serious than just a belt.
We're going up the hill and all of a sudden you heard a clunk when you downshifted. Then we just started using power, the batteries that came on, started moving there.
One attempted fix after another yielded the same result. The truck was still broken. The guys were eventually able to pinpoint the problem though. The culprit was the water pump. The truck was not going anywhere without a tow. There was nothing we could do now except stand back, look around at the vast emptiness of our surroundings, and try to figure out how we could get a cell signal to call for help. A person doesn't realize how much we rely on cell phones until you need it and can't use it.
Cannot fucking believe it.
We're not gonna make it there until midnight.
9:30 right now.
Well, I'm ready to start moving.
Ready to be somewhere.
After about an hour and much debate, we decided to do exactly what we were hoping to avoid. We loaded up as much gear as the three of us could physically carry on our bikes and got ready to continue the ride to the Grand Canyon without the chase vehicle and our three compadres. The agreed upon plan was for us to continue and the three chase vehicle guys to stay with the truck until I could call roadside assistance and have a tow truck dispatched. The problem was that none of us knew where or when that would be. With the temperature nearing 100 degrees and the hot wind sucking every bit of moisture out of us, it was not an easy decision. This is where the three of us left Nick, John, and Neil behind. The three of them not knowing when or if someone would come for them.
Remember this morning when we were talking about stuff, how it couldn't get any worse?
It can't suck any more than yesterday. It can only suck a little less. Greater than or equal to what's going to be bad enough.
I'm not worried about the grade of it because it's not possible.
Yeah, there it is, right there, I think. So this is your fault. I know this sucks and everything, and the shit shouldn't have happened, but now this is an adventure right here. This is where it gets real.
Alright, well, this is as good a time as any to update what's going on with the truck. Found a small town called Vaughn, New Mexico. A nice convenience store clerk let me use her cell phone, since mine still didn't work there, to call roadside assistance. They are trying to find somewhere to tow it to get the water pump fixed. When it gets fixed, they're going to climb in there and hopefully join us at the Grand Canyon with a brand new water pump. Hopefully they'll be rolling in sometime late tonight or early tomorrow morning before we even start the hike. I doubt it. It's now 20 minutes to 3. I don't know what kind of shop is going to work on it. I don't know when it's going to get there, so it's kind of up in the air at this moment. I don't even know if they found a tow. I had to give the lady her cell phone back because the battery was going dead before the roadside assistance people could tell me or verify that they found a tow company. So right now I don't know any more than I did an hour ago, other than we're screwed at this point. And I'll try that roadside assistance person when we get somewhere civilized, probably Albuquerque. There doesn't appear to be a whole lot around here. There appears to be a lot of nothing around here, except wind. They should bottle wind.
Yeah, this ain't a freaking good thing because I have to be back by freaking Sunday like we planned. I got one day to play with if it has to go into Monday, but that's it.
No, we'll be back by Sunday. I mean, come hell or high water. And socks standing straight out. Blowing sand into my helmet, into my eyes. Jesus.
I think Josh just lost his pack of smokes, or he lost something because it damn near bounced off my forehead.
Josh doesn't need those smokes anyway. I'm so over this wind. How the hell can it be this windy? It never stops. The wind is actually pulling the helmet, trying to pull it off of my head.
Oh my god, this is just brutal. Inside I got my earplugs in, inside my helmet's just going crazy. Oh my god, I can't even imagine how tomorrow's gonna feel.
After riding in the convection oven full of gale force winds for what seemed like forever, we were finally turning onto Interstate 40 westbound towards Albuquerque and reliable cell service. To say we were a bit anxious to hear from the chase vehicle would be a huge understatement. It was 6 p.m. when we finally reached Albuquerque. We had left the chase vehicle stranded on the roadside over 3 hours ago, and were hoping for some good news at our next fuel stop. We found a suitable gas station on the west side of the city. I knew there must be lots of news as my phone was vibrating like crazy inside my jacket. With the wind still howling, I had to kneel next to the gas pump to get out of the wind and find out what was happening. After talking to our missing companions and agreeing on a plan of attack, we got back on the bikes and continued west. We still had a good 6 hours of riding to do.
A quick update on the chase truck, car, whatever. Tow truck just showed up while we were getting fuel back there. And the nearest place that's got a water pump for a truck that they've got is 100 and some odd miles back east of where they are. So they're going to have to get towed 100 and some miles back there. Problem is, as they were waiting for the tow truck, one out of the three guys in the car bummed a ride to the same small town we got gas in, 40 miles north of where they were. So now he's separated from the group. The other two remaining guys are trying to figure out how to get him back into the group. So they're trying to convince the tow truck driver to go back up to Vaughn, pick up the third guy, and then head over to Fort Sumner to get the truck fixed. And all that this means that we'll be hiking alone tomorrow. There'll be no cameraman with us. I guess we'll be our own cameraman. And hopefully they'll join up with us at the Grand Canyon tomorrow evening or tomorrow afternoon, whenever they can get the truck back. It's turned into a large mess, actually.
As we got closer to Arizona, the wind picked up again, and the vast, empty terrain of New Mexico that we had been riding in since the morning gave way to some beautiful scenery. We were headed directly into the Arizona sunset, making our sand-coated eyes extremely uncomfortable. We pulled into our first Arizona fuel stop, feeling like we had been hit by a truck. Oh. I hope I look like I feel. The beauty of riding a motorcycle is the interaction you're forced to have between you, your machine, and your surroundings. You definitely meet some interesting characters.
Hit it. I'd love to.
You can see that with all of the equipment we had to haul, comfortable seating positions for Andy and I were non-existent. I was pushed so far forward because of my backpack that I was sitting partially on the fuel tank. Josh fared a bit better by becoming the self-proclaimed king of the bungee cord and fastening all of his stuff on his luggage rack. While we continued westward, I couldn't help but start to count the miles to go. We were currently 250 miles and roughly 4 hours from our hotel in the Grand Canyon. I knew that a nice comfortable bed was waiting for me, and that a good rest would be required before the hike tomorrow. That thought alone kept the three of us plugging along mile after mile. As the beautiful Arizona sunset slowly gave way to darkness, we found ourselves once again riding in the pitch blackness of a new moon. Instead of fighting the torrential downpours we experienced the day before, we were now battling the rapidly changing temperature as it went from sweltering to now quickly dropping into the 40s. We were well prepared for the high temperatures of the desert southwest, but because we scheduled ourselves to be comfortably relaxing at the Grand Canyon by nightfall, we were unprepared for the conditions we found ourselves currently riding in. We were chilled to the bone. There was no suitable footage that showed anything but the blackness of that night, and honestly, you're not missing anything. It was just too dark. Getting to the park entrance was pretty straightforward, but trying to navigate to our hotel among the maze of unlit and unmarked park roads proved to be a challenge in and of itself. A challenge none of us really wanted. I mean, it got so bad that I was completely convinced that we were going to come across a sign that simply stated, "You can't get there from here." It was crazy. After the day we had, it definitely tried our patience, and what should have been a 10-minute ride to the hotel ended up being just over an hour. It was 1:45 a.m. and we had traveled 800 miles by the time we unloaded all of our gear into the hotel room and settled in for the night.
Yeah, all that was on bikes.
All that was on 3 motorcycles.
You look all beat and disheveled.
Yeah, I'm pretty beat up.
So, how was today?
Today was very windy and very hot in New Mexico. Very, very windy in New Mexico. That beat me up pretty good, and I got really burnt. Pretty bad.
Show me that again.
Both of them are like that.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I'm just with the wind burned and the sunburn and the wind throwing it around all day. And still dealing with yesterday being in the rain and the wind all day. It's the body's not liking it the last 2 days.
What do you think about today?
Well, can you zoom in? Right here? Take a good look at those eyes. See how red they are? That should say it all right there. Today was just like yesterday. They both sucked. This day sucked worse than yesterday, I think.
Why?
Because of the breakdown. And being so hot. And not moving. And fully dressed. And unplugging and plugging in my helmet again and again to get off the bike and on the bike. And yeah.
So how are you feeling about the hike tomorrow?
I'm hoping it'll loosen my legs up a little bit. They only bend halfway. I'm not quite as flexible as I used to be anymore. But yeah, other than that breakdown, which I don't know what's gonna stem from that. Hopefully those guys can get caught back up with us and see what kind of a mess it is. But either way, I want to carry on because I want to get home on the scheduled day. So that's about it. Jeff, you're on. Oh, good. All right. So you know how Josh and Andy feel about the last 2 days. They said they got their butts kicked. How are you holding in?
Well, I've felt a lot better. Was doing pretty good until that breakdown, and we had to take all of our equipment with us.
What? How about looking into those eyes of yours? Let's see that.
They
Look
probably
at
don't
that
exist.
That is bright red right there. Your shot too.
Yeah.
So
That's because of sand. I had a couple sandstorms in my helmet.
oh yeah, that's right.
For the third day in a row, we were starting out later than planned. We wanted to be on the trail as soon as the sun came up in order to avoid as much of the midday heat as we could. Well, sleep went out again, and instead of beginning the hike at 6 a.m., we found ourselves waking up at that time instead. Right, you ready for this?
No.
Me either. Good. Let's go look at Captain America in here.
What?
You ready for this?
Oh Jesus.
Oh.
It's like a polar bear. What's wrong?
As we left the room, we received a text from our separated compadres. They stated that the chase vehicle was already in the shop and well on its way to being fixed. This meant that we should be reunited in the morning. That simple message was a huge relief. It begins. We were set to tackle the canyon. There were only two things standing in the way of our goal today: 16 miles worth of trail and our exhausted bodies. What could possibly go wrong?
There's people on the ledge right
A word about the Bright Angel Trail. The trail begins on the Grand Canyon's south rim and descends 4,380 feet over 8 miles to the Colorado River. There are 3 water/rest stops on the way before reaching the river rest house at the bottom. The stops are roughly 1.5 miles apart until the last one at Indian Garden. After that, you have to hike 3.2 miles to the river before you can get water again. We were all focused on our goal of making quick work of this hike so we could get some much-needed rest tonight. We hit the trailhead planning to stick together, but it didn't take long to realize that our plan just wasn't going to work. With youth on his side, Andy quickly jumped out in front. I tried to keep a steady pace that I felt I could hold for the long run. Josh, however, was quickly falling behind. It turns out that smoking a pack of cigarettes a day isn't the best training regimen for an endurance hike. Who knew? Okay, well, given that we've been hiking for less than 15 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes. No, I think Josh will make it.
This is the infamous Grand Canyon. Just overwhelming.
Hey, Andy. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, there's a large gap between us. Just wait for us at the first water stop.
All right, sounds good.
Alright. pick up the pace a little bit. I see Andy down there. And Josh is probably way back there. I picked up my pace and caught up with Andy. That way at least two of us would be hiking together in case something happened.
We lose him? You should have seen the squirrel come walking up to me, and it stopped on a rock, so I stopped by it. I stuck my camera in its face and got it about a half inch off its nose. And I was sitting there sniffing at it.
Andy and I reached the first water stop at the 1.6 mile mark. We refilled our water bladders, and while we waited for Josh to catch up, Andy took the opportunity to hone his talents as a squirrel whisperer. Hey, Bubba.
Hey,
We came up with a plan.
I need my Glock and shoot myself in the head.
With the possibility that the three of us may never hike this again, we decided to take a few pictures to memorialize the moment. Josh was already breathing heavy after only a mile and a half. Not a good sign. Andy and I were fairly sure that he would not be making it to the bottom, so we told him to go as far as he was comfortable going and then just turn around and head back.
Oh, we just left the water station. Now we're slowly making our way back down.
Here's the deal, Josh is going real slow, so he's going to get as far as he can. Andy and I are going to try to hoof it to the bottom and then come back up and meet him somewhere. Don't make fun of my hat. It's really hot. It's supposed to be 82 today, but I think they lied. I think it's 82 already, and it's only about 11 o'clock. Not even, 10 o'clock maybe. So, see you next time.
I'm walking at a slower pace than the rest of the guys. I'm walking as fast as I can. It's very hard. Very, very, very hard.
Andy naturally arrived first at the second water stop 3 miles in. I was only a few minutes behind him, but the biggest surprise was seeing Josh come strolling in a few minutes behind me. Video footage is sparse at this water stop. The three of us just wanted to snap a few pictures, refill our water, and hit the trail. We didn't overly concern ourselves with the videography. We left the second water stop at 10 a.m., and the temperature was already climbing into the upper 80s. We're still heading down. Josh is still behind us. He's being a trooper. Neck is killing me from looking down all these stairs. Andy's up in the front, right there. The view is absolutely gorgeous here. And somewhere way down in that canyon is where we're trying to go.
So far, so good. Feet are getting a little sore, but not terrible. Shoes fit a little snug. Going downhill, it just keeps pushing you. You barely get a walk on your own. Josh is kind of trailing behind, doing the best he can do. And just behind me a little ways. It's quite the adventure. Definitely a lot of scenery.
It's easy to get distracted by the sheer beauty surrounding you. It seems to constantly beckon you forward, almost like it's teasing or even daring you to see what's around the next corner.
How you doing, Jeff?
Doing alright, it's hot.
Very hot. Woohoo!
I think we're making good time. But I don't know where we're at. Left everything in the truck.
Going on 4 miles to the bottom.
Yeah, we're about should be almost at the halfway point.
Can you see the look on my face? Look at it. Look at it real good. Yeah, get right in there.
Yeah.
You see the...
I see excitement, jubilation,
I'm just...
and believe it or not, a sense of accomplishment.
Oh, God. I never thought I could walk 4 miles in my life.
Well, at least it's all downhill now.
Right.
And we've got the uphill part to go.
That's okay, because then I'll switch from my toes being blistered to the back of my heel. That's, I don't feel much better. All I know is extremely hot.
Holy hell.
What is it, like 80?
Well, they said 82, but a guy I talked to said that yesterday they were only supposed to get to 81 and it got up to 95.
Oh my god.
So typically this time of year it's 100 and something.
Bad day for underwear.
We reached Indian Garden, the third water stop 4.5 miles into the hike. They call this place Indian Garden because the Havasupai people built the trail from the canyon's rim to this point and settled here seasonally.
There's water right there.
Andy and I were expecting to get a radio call from Josh, saying that he's turning around and heading back, but instead of a radio call, he came strolling up to us. A bit winded perhaps, but he was there. Andy and I were completely surprised, and honestly, I think Josh surprised himself that he made it that far. We still had over 3 miles to go, and there would be no more water until we got to the bottom. It was around 11 a.m. and the temperature was already over 90 degrees. None of us really wanted to leave the shade and head back out into the hot sun, but we knew that the quicker we reach the bottom, the quicker we can turn around and head back up. Hiking out of Indian Garden, we came across this sign. It read, "Warning, do not attempt to hike from the canyon rim to the river and back in one day."
This is what we are not supposed to do.
And?
We are doing it.
After seeing that, it seemed like a good time to once again tell Josh that he can turn around at any time and head back up, because if something were to happen, the only way to get up to the rim is on the back of a mule. Even though Josh started out in front, he didn't stay there long. With a singular focus, Andy and I picked up the pace in an attempt to make quick work of the remaining miles. We reached a section of trail that almost made me want to turn around and give up. Looking at the length of this section comprised of all stairs was a morale killer. It wasn't that I felt I couldn't make it down, it was knowing that soon I would have to come back up these very same stairs. Oh, well, hopefully you can hear me. We're somewhere. But the trail goes that way, winds around over that way, and goes way down into the bottom over there somewhere. Yeah, you can see why they say don't hike this in a day. I don't even think we're halfway yet.
The people sitting over there.
Yeah, in the shade. I hope it's worth it. The heat was intense as it reflected off the bleached stone walls of the canyon, making the temperature soar to near 100 degrees.
He goes right over my head.
Go sit there. The heat didn't keep us from having a little bit of fun along the way. Ran into a nice lady. Asked her how far the bottom was, and she said a half mile to the river. And it's the best news we've heard all day. Well, until we get back to the top and somebody tells us it's a half mile to the top. That'll be pretty freaking wonderful. But we're plugging along, dodging rocks, lizards, Andy's smell. Speaking of which, there he is. So, starting to get used to the taste of sand. See you at the bottom.
The walk is brutal. You got shoes that feel like they're 9 sizes too small right now. And I can feel my toes just burning. I won't be able to wait to take these freaking shoes off. And I'm power sucking water like it's going out of style. So I'm hoping that there will be water coming up shortly. We hit the bottom finally. But just keep on keeping on.
Andy and I reached the bottom and made a beeline for the river. We were both exhausted and drenched in sweat, but the feeling of actually making it this far made it all worth it.
Here we are. Here's the river.
Oh, here we sit. Taking a breather. As you can see, Josh isn't anywhere to be found. He's either given up and gone back when he saw the trail way back there, or he's going to come strolling up here with a cigarette in his mouth. Who knows? If he does, that'd be amazing. Cause for celebration for sure. I think now, if order businesses, go find a flat area, take off the boots, get the food out, and eat, rest briefly, and then head back up to the top. Try to get up there early enough so we can get some sleep tonight. Oh, lordy. Alright, we're in the shelter down at the bottom. The river is right over there. Needed to get some shade, get some food in our bellies for the walk back up.
We had already heard from Josh on the radio that he had reached that point 6 miles in. You know the spot, that cliffside overlook where all the stairs began, and at that point he decided to turn around and head back. A very wise choice for sure. Now, I'll admit that as Andy and I sat there in that shelter house, my body began to let me know just how exhausted it was. My legs and feet hurt, my back hurt, basically everything hurt. Each one of us had our own strategy for handling this hike. Andy wanted to go as fast as he could in order to maximize rest at the end. Josh wanted to go slow and just get as far as he could. Me? I wanted to take it slow and reserve enough energy so the hike back to the rim from the river wouldn't kill me. It turns out that I wasn't very good at following my own plan. I felt like I had absolutely nothing left in my tank. I mean, the thought of hiking back up to the canyon's rim made me want to throw up. It took us just over 4 hours to get down here, and the realization of a longer hike back up was not sitting well with me at all.
Alright, here we are at the bottom, about ready to start our way back up to the top. How you feeling about the that next half of the hike?
I'm just ready to push through and just get back. You got to get back one way or another, you know, you got no choice, so let's do it.
Oh Lord, yes. Shit.
It was slow going for me as we started back up this section of the trail from hell. Convincing my legs to function was no easy task. Every step had become a struggle as the heat continued to suck out every ounce of remaining energy I had. We stayed together for about a quarter mile before I felt it was necessary to stop in some shade and just take a breather. Andy, however, just wanted to keep moving, so this is where he left me.
I'm gonna slowly keep on, keep it up.
He was quickly out of sight, working his way up the relentless dirt stairs. By this time, Josh had made it to Indian Garden. It turns out that he wasn't doing so well. There was still 2 miles separating Andy and Josh, so without some sort of radio call, we were clueless about his condition.
I'm not doing so well. I get stopped a lot. I'm physically, mentally shot. My legs are done. It hurts so bad. This was not a good idea. I think I'm physically sick.
With Josh in trouble and Andy increasing the gap between us, what started as a pretty straightforward day slowly began to shift into crisis mode. At the time, though, none of us grasped just how serious the crisis was about to get for each of us.
Holy shit. Trying to go back up all these stairs. There's gotta be 5,000 stairs just to get halfway. It's kicking my ass. I think it's the combination of no sleep, not really eating good, and overall being exhausted before we even started. But stop about every 100 yards or so and take a break. This is rough.
I'm exhausted. This I'm just plugging away a little bit here and there at a time. Not trying to take on a whole lot. I just can't do it. I want to fall over and just say I'm done, but I don't want to lay in this canyon and fucking die either. So, just gotta keep pushing on. Can't hardly even talk. So exhausted. Plenty of water. Little steps here and there. Stopping in shade every chance I get because it's so hot. I just want to make it out of here alive. These thoughts that run through your head when you feel like you're stranded and there's no help in sight. I don't like it. This is extreme. This I don't recommend to anybody. I would never. Not unless you got time, and I'm sick of being gone. It's time to do what we gotta do and get the flock out of here.
I decided to lay down and take a break. Nice and cool in the shade, found a nice rock. Rest my head on. And before we continue up over that way. There. Walking up here. Walking in soft sand. Right leg, foot, and stuff went to the right, and my knee went pop. So now I'm dealing with hobbling up the rest of this thing. Oh well. Hopefully it feels better by tomorrow.
I laid there on this makeshift stone bed, intent on napping through until nightfall, and then continuing on once it got dark. Once again, the universe had other plans. This is where things went sideways and upside down. I was looking at the canyon through my knees as I was laying there when I received a radio call from Andy stating that he was near Indian Garden, roughly a mile ahead of me. His legs had cramped up and he is now dragging himself up the trail on his elbows. I explained the situation with my knee and that it was going to take me a considerable amount of time to catch up to him. He simply said to get there as soon as possible. With that, I gathered everything and started hobbling my way towards Indian Garden.
This is hard.
Pretty.
Josh was by himself a few hundred yards out of Indian Garden when his body began to shut down. You can tell by his breathing that he was in pretty bad shape. This spot is where he removed himself from the trail, laid down in the grass, and came to terms with his mortality, not expecting to make it out of the canyon. Yeah, things were that serious.
Well, lots unfolded since I talked to this camera last. I found Josh totally heat exhausted. Just I don't think he would have made her. I cramped up so bad I had to lay on the trail and just sit there. I laid there for about 15 minutes and then all of a sudden a group of people came through and oh boy, let me tell you, I owe my life, and Josh says he owes his life to them, and they pumped us full of vitamins and just amazing. So I know this video probably ain't gonna turn out the best, but I'm pretty exhausted. I just check in periodically and I just want to get to the top. So next water hole, I'll talk to you then.
I eventually made my way to Indian Garden and no sign of Andy. I stood there dreading the remaining 4.5 miles when Andy radioed me with an update. He told me about the group of Spanish hikers that found him laying in the trail all cramped up. They pumped him full of vitamins, minerals, and electrolytes to get him on his feet and able to walk again. There was a guy from Oregon there as well that spoke Spanish, so Andy was using him as a translator. The guy from Oregon gave Andy his hat, and the group grabbed all of Andy's equipment before continuing onto the rim with Andy in their midst. A few steps up the trail, they came upon Josh laying off to the side with arms folded and looking like hell. The group performed the same first aid on Josh and eventually got him to his feet and able to walk. They took all of Josh's equipment in addition to Andy's and began escorting both of them out of the canyon. Now, Here you have a group of strangers, most from Spain and one from Oregon, essentially saving the life of at least one person that day. Not to mention that they wouldn't let Andy or Josh carry a single thing. Truly amazing. By the time they reached the last water stop before the top, Andy was feeling a lot better. He grabbed as much gear as he could and beat feet to the top and subsequently reached the hotel first.
I don't even know how to describe the feeling. I just got out of the canyon. I actually stepped in the hotel room. I didn't even have time to stop, and I had so much stuff in my hands from Josh and, all the stuff I had to carry back. My hands were just tied. So this is the best I could do, but we did. We made it there. We made it back. It wasn't the easiest by no means. Absolutely wasn't easy at all. I just can't tell you the mental and physical things that I went through and, the other guys went through too. We all had our thing, but I'm just beat. So, I'm having a hard time even talking right now. Coming up with words, my mental processing is just horrible. I'm just ready to shower.
While Andy was safely back at the hotel and Josh was still working his way along the last mile of the trail with his new group, I found myself alone and exhausted. The sun was setting and the shade had quickly spread. It wouldn't be long now before I would be hiking in the dark.
More up.
Now, just so you know, I did have a flashlight in my backpack, but by this point, I didn't have the energy required to remove my pack and dig it out. I know it sounds silly, but I was that exhausted. I made it out of the canyon in the dark and slowly walked back to the hotel. I hadn't seen another person in almost 2 hours. It had taken me 4 hours to get to the river and over 8 hours to walk back up. Andy had finished about 3 hours ahead of me and Josh 2 hours before me. We were done with this day and it felt great.
This is the day after the hike. I couldn't do this last night because we were all exhausted. I'd have to stop every 50 to 100 yards wherever there was shade. Just sit down and try to stretch that knee out a little bit. Take a break, get some water. I was never so happy to see this hotel room or the top of that canyon. My knee still hurts. Hopefully the position on the motorcycle is not going to bother it a whole lot. I just want to get to Billings, go to bed.
Well, yesterday was a pretty interesting day. That was our big hike that we set out to accomplish. And by the way, we made it all the way down, all the way back. It just opened my eyes to see, your thoughts and what, when you start getting in that bad of shape. Me and Josh were both just wore out from heat exhaustion, but you gotta be in a different state of mind. Mentally I didn't give up. Mentally I knew I had to get out of there, but physically couldn't do it anymore. And if it wasn't for these people, this would have been a different ending, and I didn't come on this trip to die. I don't recommend it to anybody to walk that trail unless you absolutely know what you're getting in for.
Very thankful to be alive today. The hike, I made it about 6 miles down and I couldn't go anymore. I thought I was gonna die actually. See what happens the rest of the trip. Tempers are getting a little more not good. We're getting a little more crabbier. It's very, very hard. I don't even know what to say anymore. I didn't think I was gonna be here today.
We woke up on day 4 surprisingly well rested and ready to start heading home, and believe me, we were ready to go home. Even Josh was feeling back to normal. Packing all of this equipment back into the chase truck and prepping our gear took a considerable amount of time. Remember, our goal was to be in Billings tonight, some 1,100 miles away.
I feel excellent. Both my big toes and my feet are freaking black and blue. My lips are so chapped they just won't stop bleeding. This trip beat us up pretty good.
still alive and kicking.
It was almost 10 a.m. when Andy led us out of the hotel parking lot and back among the maze of roads.
Okay, I'm lost.
Make a left here.
The roads in the park were very confusing, even in the daylight. It's a wonder that we were able to find the hotel in the dark 2 days ago.
This actually feels really good to be back on the bike. Won't be saying that after tonight, but anything's better than that damn hike. Well, we didn't even make it a couple miles out of the park and lost our chase vehicle already. And they're having a hell of a time catching up. I guess, I don't know, after the past couple days and everything that's happened and just all the shit that went wrong, my tolerance level for delays and everything else is absolutely zero right now. I'm sick of waiting. I'm sick of all this different stuff, you know, that takes forever to do so we can get on the road. I hate being away this long. It's just unbelievable. I knew what this trip was going to amount to, don't get me wrong, but I didn't know we were going to have delays and everything else like this. You know, we're just barely making, you know, our scheduled times. The first day we didn't come close to being to Roswell. You know, we had like 200 miles to go yet, so we weren't on time there. I don't know, just at the point where I'm ready to get this frickin' over with. Yeah, this is ridiculous right now for me. We're just slowly making our way around the canyon, I guess.
Headed for the park exit, we caught a few last glimpses of the Grand Canyon. Because of our experiences the day before, let me tell you, putting the canyon in our rearview mirror brought us a lot of satisfaction. With the chase vehicle still lost, the three of us just wanted out of that park, so we left them behind, confident that they would eventually catch up when we stopped for fuel in the town of Cameron, 58 miles away. Once we get to Cameron, we still need to ride 1,000 miles to get to Billings. Any delay there would be very detrimental to our goal. We finally found the East Side Park exit, and not a moment too soon, as Andy was becoming more and more stricken with get-home-itis.
Now I'm just determined to get home. I don't care what happens. It's just crazy to get down in this territory and see, you know, little shacks and stuff like that in the middle of nowhere. You know, from like where I come from in Wisconsin, we got stuff everywhere. But here to be out in the middle of nothing, it's just, I don't know, just a little shack, and like this guy here's got a pickup truck. You know, what happens if something goes wrong? Where do you turn? What do you do? You know, it just, that's crazy. Definitely beautiful scenery around here, there ain't no doubt about that. I can feel the heat, it's getting hot again. Feel it through my jacket even.
Once again, I found myself calling the guys in the separated chase truck, trying to figure out where they were and when they would be caught up. They were roughly 25 minutes behind us, and it would be just after 1 p.m. before they arrived. We had only traveled roughly 70 miles, and we were more than halfway through the day. I could feel our goal becoming mathematically impossible, again. but I kept this bit of bad news to myself. We moved our bikes into some shade and waited. I mean, we had nothing but time. The chase truck eventually caught up, and we all got prepared for the next push that would take us around the north side of the canyon, working our way to Interstate 15.
Come on, Mr. Highway Patrol, get out of the way.
The temperature was sizzling as we drove through the painted desert. The heat wasn't only sucking the moisture right out of us, I think it was draining our patience as well.
Yeah, I don't understand that. In the middle of absolutely nowhere, people fucking do this, but in town they're quick to go 9,000 miles an hour like we talked about. Was that another sports bike I seen? Every time I see a canyon, I just want to hike it now.
We made our way to the north side of the canyon and headed west again. The temperature was soaring near 100, and with the scourge of slow drivers gone, we could finally start to make up some time.
Josh is pulling over. I don't know what's going on.
When you're riding with a group, no matter how big or small, there's always something. Well, with all the water and sports drinks Josh had been downing in an attempt to stay hydrated, he needed to make an emergency roadside stop to relieve himself. Funny as it was, all I could hear was the clock ticking.
Josh has got to pee.
Once Josh was done, it was off towards Interstate 15.
According to Jeff's GPS, we got frickin', oh my god, a long day in front of us. We won't be in Montana until about 5, 6 a.m. Catch a couple hours of sleep and hit the trail. I just want to get back home. That's all I want right now, just get home.
It was 3:20 p.m. and we were just entering Utah. It didn't take long to find Interstate 15 and start heading north to Salt Lake City, some 280 miles away. The chase truck was nowhere in sight, and we were unable to reach them on the radio. We assumed that they were just caught behind some slow drivers, and we hoped that they would catch up during our next fuel stop. We made our first Utah fuel stop, and there was still no sign of the chase vehicle. We filled our bikes and occasionally tried reaching them on the radio, hoping to contact them before they drove past. As our luck had been since this trip started, they went right past us and decided to wait at the next off-ramp. We were ready to leave when a familiar friend reared its ugly head. Josh tried to start his bike, and nothing. Again. We had no battery pack this time, so there we sat until Josh fixed it himself. He must have wiggled enough wires or tightened enough connections because he finally got it started. Between filling the bikes, contacting the chase vehicle, and waiting for Josh to get his bike started, we wasted almost 45 minutes. This day, like the others, just wasn't going our way. As we left the gas station, my mind was racing while I tried to calculate our remaining miles. It was obvious that we needed to come up with a plan B. We found the chase vehicle and exited the interstate. Right here is where Andy reached his breaking point.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
With that, Andy's give-a-shit meter was officially at 0.
This is fucking whacked out.
guys informed us that the truck was having issues with trying to go up any hills. It would go into some sort of low power mode, and the only way to get it out of that mode was to shut the truck off and restart it. Turns out that this was why they were so far behind earlier. With this tidbit of information, it was time for Plan C. We all agreed that the three of us would continue as planned, but forego any more hotel stops. We would ride straight through to Marshfield from here, some 1,800 miles, and only stop and sleep at a rest area when necessary. The truck would try to keep up, and if they couldn't, then they would just work their way back to Marshfield as fast as the truck would let them. Spirits were at an all-time low, and tempers were starting to flare. My hope of completing this ride together as a group was quickly fading. It was safe to say that with everything that has happened on this trip, everyone just wanted to get home. We planned to be home before midnight tomorrow, June 2nd, and some of the guys needed to be back to work on Monday, June 3rd. This all just added to the anxiety created by the new issue with the truck.
We said the worst it's gonna get. We gotta get fucking rolling.
With the details sorted, we were off again. Next stop should be Salt Lake City.
Stop every 4 seconds so we can do this, that, and the other thing. I'm getting so pissed off right now, it ain't even funny. I'm about ready to set my own GPS straight home. I can't take this. I don't want to be out here in the middle of absolute nowhere, thousands of miles from home, fucking around. Getting very irritated right now.
The chase truck seemed to be running better now that it was cooling off outside. It was keeping up with us, and I was no longer worried that we would be splitting up. We made a quick fuel stop in Salt Lake City, not only to gas up, but also to put on some extra layers of clothes. The temperatures in northern Utah and eastern Idaho were supposed to dip into the mid-30s, and not good news for us at all. We left the gas station and it didn't take long for it to get dark. The closer to Idaho we got, the colder it got. Our first stop in Idaho was at 12:20 a.m. The temps were in the upper 40s and falling fast. This was going to be a long, cold night.
Only a bazillion more miles to go.
So it was warming up and then it got cold again.
Oh my god, I'm getting tired.
You getting tired?
Yeah, I was doing this for a while. Trying to keep my eyes open.
You gonna be okay?
I don't know. I'm getting there.
How can you be tired if it's so damn cold?
I'm like just making me tired.
Being cold? I'm too busy shivering. So how are you feeling?
Don't even have words.
All set to leave Idaho Falls, it happened again. Josh's bike wouldn't start.
Oh, yeah.
As inconvenient as it was, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Instead of trying to get it started right away, we decided to park the bikes in an open corner of the parking lot in an attempt to get a little shut-eye. We affectionately called this spot the Iron Butt Motel, a term very familiar among long-distance motorcycle riders.
Well, this is our hotel for night 4 in Idaho Falls. That bike won't start. So there's Andy's bed. Looks comfortable. And that bike's gonna be my bed. So hopefully they can figure out what's going on with Josh's bike, or it's gonna end up on the trailer. And then
We were still cold, but it didn't matter. As soon as we got comfortable, well, as comfortable as we could at least, and closed our eyes, we were out. We slept there for about 2 hours before our internal alarm clocks woke us up, or maybe it was the cold and the stiffness of our bodies. Either way, it was time to gather our things and continue north into Montana, and the coldest temperatures any of us had ever ridden in. We shivered our way north with 1,450 miles remaining and less than 24 hours to do it in. Braving the 36-degree temperatures and dodging countless elk as they stood by the roadside provided enough of a distraction not to even think about it anymore. You know, 36 hours ago we were battling heat stroke, and now we're worried about freezing to death. The crossing into Montana brought equally cold temperatures. The only place that we could find open for fuel was a self-service place whose main building didn't open for another 45 minutes. We had hoped to go inside somewhere to warm up and thaw out, but that wasn't an option here.
It's how fucking cold is it?
37. It got to 36.
It was very cold, I know that.
Where the hell are we? Montana? Yeah.
Dell? I can't stop shaking. Jesus Christ.
My legs are frozen. My feet are getting cold. And that doesn't happen often.
It became necessary to thaw out our hands, so we used the truck's heater for that. It took some extra time, but it was so worth it. The sun was starting to come up, and we knew that if we could just go a little longer, the temperature would start to go up and we'd be comfortable again. Plus, we were closing in on Butte, where we'd turn east and make the final push back to Marshfield.
Well, it's 36 degrees, rumor has it, right now. Going through Montana, working our way to Butte. You know, it's a good feeling being this far. I know we got a ways to go, but...
Finally turning eastbound was both a blessing and a curse. The sun was rising higher above the horizon, which equaled warmer temperatures, but it also meant staring directly into it. Our eyes already felt like sandboxes, and with it steadily getting warmer, it took everything we had not to let our blinks become a micronap. We had essentially been running on adrenaline for the past few days, and with the dawn ushering in our last day of riding, everyone was pumped to get this over with. So with the end finally in sight, we rode our asses off. In the spirit of doing whatever we could to get back on schedule, we decided to take the more boring northern route on Interstate 94 through North Dakota, instead of the more scenic southern route through South Dakota on Interstate 90. Overall, this should save us about an hour and a half without compromising our total mileage. No matter how we sliced it though, Andy was still unhappy and frustrated. We could all see it in his face at the fuel stops. His frame of mind was unfortunate. I mean, sometimes you just need to go with the flow and enjoy the moment, especially when things are beyond your control. Yeah, we were riding against the clock, but by not embracing the moment, he was missing the undeniable purity and beauty that is Montana. We were on motorcycles riding through one of the most scenic states in the country, for crying out loud. We all just wanted him to snap out of it.
Tell me that it's just too far. I'll tell you I won't hear it. Say that the road will take its toll, but on these two wheels I can pay. I'm happy on the highway, wide lines flying by. I'm chasing something only I see. I got 1,000 miles to ride.
Fucking bullshit.
Tell me I can go the distance. I'll tell you I'm gonna make it. Say I won't savor the victory, but on this highway I can taste it.
Hours from Bismarck, North Dakota. I'll be thrilled when we can make it through this state. North Dakota, get into Minnesota, and I'll start feeling a little bit better. Fuel mileage sucks because it's so windy. The wind is just unbelievable. I can barely hear myself talk. We had so many, I don't know what it is with Jeff, close calls with bird strikes, and he finally just biffed one. I don't know what the hell is going on with that. They love his bike. Maybe it's the bird seed I put in his helmet. That was a good one. I laughed my ass off. There it is. Jeez.
As it turned out, this little incident with the bird is what we needed to snap Andy out of his funk.
I seen that coming a mile away. That was like 4 times a day for you, wasn't it?
Every day.
That was a fucking good one. You got a mess going.
It came up in
Oh shit, sorry. Holy shit. That was a good one. There were fucking feathers everywhere. There goes our guys.
After the bird incident, there were no more outbursts from our young sport bike rider. As a matter of fact, during a fuel stop near Fargo, he actually remained calm and in a good mood when he heard we still had 405 miles to go. We did, however, have a bit of an issue to deal with, a potentially serious issue that could be a showstopper for Josh. We discovered Josh's headlight lens had shattered somewhere. Since it's illegal to operate a motorcycle on public roads without a working headlight, we were all very concerned that he would need to trailer his bike the rest of the way back to Marshfield. No one wanted to see that happen. Luckily, the bulb was still working and functioning normally. It just needed to last another 7 hours or so. The sun was setting behind us as we left North Dakota and entered Minnesota. We continued to chip away at the miles as we closed the gap between us and Minneapolis. Being able to count the remaining fuel stops on 2 fingers had everyone feeling rejuvenated.
I-35 is coming up. You just want to restart the dirty all again.
We remained focused, and before we knew it, we were in Wisconsin getting fuel at our final gas stop. Our bikes were a complete mess, and the temperature had fallen back into the 40s. By this point, we didn't care anymore. We could finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, and for the first time on this ride, it wasn't a train. Next stop, Marshfield, and the end of our journey. We arrived in Marshfield at 5 a.m. on Monday, June 3rd, missing our targeted return time by a mere 5 hours. There was no fanfare or large gathering, just the 3 of us congratulating each other and thanking the 3 volunteers for an epic ride none of us would soon forget. You know, it's been said that the core of a man is formed by new experiences. Our goal with all of this was to challenge ourselves mentally and physically while doing something that not too many people would want to attempt. It's not like we didn't have some problems along the way. Okay, so we had a lot of problems, every single day. From severe weather on day 1, to broken down vehicles on day 2. Then there was the killer hike on day 3 to extreme cold and the marathon ride home on days 4 and 5. These things, these problems, forced us to work together as a team. We began this thing as a team, we rode and overcame every obstacle as a team, but in the end, we finished as a family.
So many times Just 3 bikes and 3 men. The sights, the smells, the sounds, the music of the engines through our chest it pounds. It's Mother Nature pounding, providing no resistance. Father Time whispers, boys, you go in the distance. In the bars we hang on for our lives, as our thoughts begin to drift to our families, girlfriends and wives. And as the ride concludes, our minds and bodies shattered, we reflect on the miles past. We embrace the things